Welcome to the Aperture Science Enrichment Center. Let's look at some of the challenges you'll face as a test participant. You may be required to perform simple tasks, such as locating an exit. These simple tasks may be supplemented with insurmountable obstacles. Thanks to the Aperture Science handheld portal device, the impossible is easy. Let's look at a real-world example.
On March 1st, 2010, the greatest puzzle game ever made had a small update drop out of nowhere, and it would go on to change everything. Again. This was no bug fix. It was in fact the start of an epic 100-day journey that would have the internet cracking codes and using ancient technology. It would culminate in an announcement that would shock the world. Was Valve teasing Portal 2, or was it something bigger? To set the scene, Portal had been released on the 10th of October 2007 and had instantly become a big deal. Like a really big deal. A critical and commercial hit, it was bundled in the orange box of Team Fortress 2 and Half-Life 2 as a companion to the much more popular games. This little puzzle game quickly won over the world with its devilishly simple concept, addictive gameplay and wonderfully written story. Portal will go on to be ranked overwhelmingly positive on Steam with 98% positive feedback from over 76,000 reviews. That was grossing over $150 million US. A healthy speedrunning community, fan art, stories being written, Portal was very much still in the public consciousness, and for good reason. But Valve had never stated their intentions with the game. An eerie radio silence descended over the franchise. So, in 2010, when an update was pushed with the text, "Change radio transmission frequency to comply with federal, state and spectrum management regulations," internet forums were immediately ablaze. Not noted in the patch notes, but added to the game was an additional achievement, transmission received, with the mysterious text, ... It was a sign, but to what? The Steam forums is where a lot of this story goes down. In 2010, Reddit was only just starting to gain traction after Quit Dig Day, which brings back some fantastic memories but it's probably its own video for another time. People quickly realised that when they got in the game, there was now a total of 26 radios, some of which already existed and some of which were new. The radios were in hard to reach spots but could be easily found due to the customary music they would play. The radios also had a new red light that wasn't there before. Players quickly began toying with the radios, seeing if they could elicit some kind of reaction from them. It had already been noted that a casting call had been put out for the voice of GLaDOS, so whilst no one knew what was going on, they knew that something was happening. It was discovered that moving each radio to a specific location in their test chamber would scramble the sound, and Morse code, or the sound of incoming data, would start playing instead. Jamming every radio in every map was the requirement for unlocking the achievement. This was our first sign that Valve had created a trail, our first breadcrumbs that would lead us on a crazy journey. For context, this story takes place in March 2010, and to give you an idea of where we were as a culture, the Black Eyed Peas were topping the chart with I'm a Bee, as was Rihanna with Rude Boy. Glee was absolutely massive, and Tiger Woods was shocking the world with his even more shocking behaviour. Facebook was beginning to take hold, and Twitter wasn't far behind. That being said, conversations were still largely confined to forums and the occasional IRC or Ventrilo server. That's sort of like an old-timey Discord. Even by 2010, people knew to check the game files in situations like this. So that's exactly what users started doing. The new sounds were quickly discovered in a folder in the game files called Ambient. They were named Dinosaur 1 through 26, with dinosaur_noise when the radio was scambled, and dinosaur_fizzle when the radio was put through a grill. At the same time, on the Something Awful forums, March 2nd, 2010, it was determined that the sound files fell into two groups. Those that were in Morse code, and, in even more ridiculous news, some were in SSTV, or slow scan television, a picture transmission method that is used by amateur radio operators to send black and white or colour images. It works by using pitches in its chirps and buzzes to send the colour of each individual pixel, giving a grainy but legible picture. Finding these was a pure treasure trove. They weren't just grainy pictures, they were glimpses into Aperture's world. For fans, it was like Valve was peeling back the curtain and letting them step into the Portal universe for the first time since the first game ended. The last vestiges of these forum posts still exist and are linked in the description, but a conversation between Genio and Captain Numbnuts, yes, honestly, reveals the speed at which things were decoded. Dinosaur 1, 5, 12 and 17 were in Morse code. They said, interior transmission active, external data line active, message digest active. They also included an MD5 hash of the quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog, the infamous panagram used to test typewriters and other computer keyboards. System data dump active, user backup active, password backup active. This would become very important later. A bunch of beeps, which I'm not going to read out, which in turn translated as LOL. And the rest of the dinosaur sounds revealed a series of rather spooky looking images, which appeared to be various parts of Aperture Laboratories facilities. Some of these were fun images that built the world, but offered nothing, including 6, an image of GLaDOS, Dinosaur 8, the back of a computer case with the fan location clearly visible, Dinosaur 9 was a photo of a skull, 2 vacuum tubes and some other items on a desk which was found at Adam Foster's Flickr account. 11 was bulbs and a ceramic rooster. Dinosaur 14 was an unknown subject seen through a telescope or some kind of other device, possibly the moon or the circuit board from Dinosaur 26. Dinosaur 15 was a toy cow. 19 was hidden phone numbers written away very similar to the Portal credits where the hashes replace numbers. 21 was an Aperture Laboratories white lab coat with the collar on the left. 22 was a reverse image of an inertial navigation system for the Apollo guidance computer taken at the MIT Museum in Cambridge, Massachusetts. This was also found on Adam Foster's Flickr account. 23 was the edge of a circuit board for a robot called Herbert who was built at MIT in 1987. 24 was a mousetrap, possibly a reference to Ratman who we'll talk about later. And 26 was a close-up shot of a printed circuit board, possibly the CPU, seen through a microscope or a similar device. These ones were funny, but they didn't really add to the story or the ARG. However, Dinosaur 2 and 3 included some complex maths equations, the perfect amount to drive fans insane. But when you decoded it and did a whole bunch of complex maths, it turned out that it really just gave you 4 important numbers. Dinosaurs 3 and 10 were a sheet of paper with the Aperture Laboratories header. Above that, the crossed out BBS number, identified as 425 822 521. 4 contained some alphanumerics, as did 7, 13 and 16. 18, 20 and 25 also followed suit, containing a bunch of alphanumerics. After a bit of scrambling, the internet, in all of its mighty wisdom, realised that we had 32 characters. When put in the order of the numbers which appear in the bottom right of each image, they gave 9459, Charlie 6 Charlie Alpha, Charlie 8 Charlie 2, 03 Bravo 8, 128 Bravo, 7 Charlie Charlie 6, 3068, Delta 4 Foxtrot Delta. Remember that phone number from Dinosaurs 3 and 10? Well, they didn't lead anywhere. It was inert, useless. We had a phone number and a string of hexadecimal characters. It felt meaningless, but really it was a hash, specifically an MD5 hash, and an important one. It meant something, but there was no way of knowing what, yet. Players tried to crack it by putting words into an MD5 hash generator, and eventually they got something that matched the phone number, 425 822 5251. It was a real phone number, registered to Kirkland, Washington, a suburb of Seattle and the city where Valve was founded. Players butted their heads together on message boards, and eventually someone had the genius idea to try connecting via a modem in a terminal emulator. If that sounds completely incomprehensible, don't worry, you're not on your own. BBS is a 1980s/90s way of connecting to your computer's phone line using a modem. Once you're connected, you could upload files and read or send messages. It's like a really primitive internet using phone numbers. Connecting this way unlocked the next part of the game, a giant step to understanding what would come next.
We are very, very happy for your success. Where you think you're going?
Calling this number via the BBS software and a 56k modem would present the user with a login prompt that read, GLaDOS login. Boom. It had become clear that they were in the right place. This was the turning point. It wasn't just players poking around files anymore. Valve had actually built an entire secret system waiting to be cracked. The ARG was real. The next step was to understand what the username and password was, as this was required. Well, looking back at the images, people found themselves zeroing in on Dinosaur 12. It reads, System Data Dump Active. User backup active. Password backup active. The username and password were both backup. Evidently, Aperture Laboratories were not forced to go through the same data security e-learning course that I was, but that's okay. Once entered, users would receive the BBS identification, Aperture Laboratories GLaDOS version 3.11, followed by copyright 1973 to 1997, Aperture, all rights reserved. Immediately, every single line of this copy was decoded. So far, nothing was done by accident. Captain Numbnuts and Co. narrowed down on V3.11, or the 11th of March. What else was happening that day? Gabe Newell, the founder of Valve, was being awarded the Pioneer Award during the Game Choice Awards. Was it all leading to this moment? The BBS system also spat out some in-universe Aperture Science lore, including memos and ASCII art. These were a treasure trove of fun and detail, including a whole bunch of things that you can see on screen now. It had been a very busy couple of days puzzle breaking, and everyone thought we may have came to a conclusion. That was when, at 2:24 PST, on March 3rd, 2010, Portal was updated for a second time, with the description, added valuable asset retrieval. Oh shit, here we go again. The ending to Portal had been changed. This was jaw-dropping. Valve had literally rewritten the ending of one of the most beloved games of the decade in real time, years after release. No one had ever seen a developer do something like this before. Instead of fading out as Shell leaves the facility, a party escort bot fetches her and takes her back in. This was the original ending cut before the game was shipped, and now it was back. This was controversial at the time. The idea of just changing the ending to a game as beloved as Portal, no matter how slight, sent some people the wrong way. It was done now. The story continues. At the same time, the image dump from the BBS system was also slightly changed. A new prompt appeared with a progress bar counting up to 76 with the words "Valuable Asset Retrieval Initiated." The implication was that the BBS system itself had sent the party escort bot. Under the counter was an ETA which stated everything from under 43 femtoseconds or smaller all the way to 39 cubic steradians, with everything in between being represented. That is absolute peak developer humour. I can say it slightly flew over my head. This countdown was to the announcement that we'd all been waiting for, the much anticipated announcement of Portal 2.
I think we can put our differences behind us. For science, you monster.
At 9:44 AM PST on March 5th, 2010, 20 minutes before the completion of the progress bar, Portal 2 was officially announced on Steam. For players who had spent sleepless nights chasing codes and hashes, this was the payoff. It was real. The ARG was not just some gimmick, it was a road to one of the most anticipated sequels in gaming. The announcement read, Valve, creators of best-selling game franchises such as Left 4 Dead, Counter-Strike and Half-Life, and leading technologies such as Steam and Source, today announced Portal 2 for shipment this coming holiday season. Portal 2 is the sequel to 2007's Portal, which won 70 industry awards. For more information, please visit steamgames.com. That's an old school reference in that URL right there, if I do say so myself. Hold on a second though. There's something a bit off about that announcement. And it doesn't exactly take the Enigma code to crack it. Immediately the forums tried to work out what it meant. There were many moving parts to this ARG by now, but recent updates to the BBS system led posters to surmise that it must be something on there. This was when someone realised that the letters included the word Ratman, the name of the muralist from Portal, and one of the only survivors of GLaDOS flooding the enrichment centre with neurotoxin. This must be his login. With the remaining letters, the password H0NEE was found. Entering them into the terminal generated ASCII art images and a new mysterious set of code. Concurrently to this happening, logging in with the backup account gave access to the source code of a QBasic program to decode the new Dratman code dump. 2 new images were found. The first, some blue text on a grey background. It read, "Thank you for participating in the trial phase of the Aperture Science Cooperative Testing Initiative. Because of your success, we are moving forward with this project. You will be contacted when the live fire phase of the Cooperative Testing Initiative is ready to accept applicants." Pressing 9 would take you to a second image, 2 characters arm in arm with the text, "Cooperative trial completed." A sign perhaps that the ARG was complete, that we dug deep enough and uncovered all of the secrets. It was a wild ride, but it was over. The announcement of Portal 2 had been made. There was, however, one loose end. Gabe Newell was still to speak on March 11th. March 11th, 2010. Gabe Newell steps on stage to accept the Pioneer Award. During his speech, he spoke about the ARG, how everyone was expecting him to have answers. Perhaps we were going to learn more about Portal 2. Gabe stated that he was going to answer some of the unanswered questions. He moved along his slides where our answers would be found when suddenly a blue screen crash. Boos erupted around the room when suddenly the traditional blue screen of death transformed into a custom version.
So
boos raptured into applause.
That's what I get for working at Microsoft.
Before leaving the stage with "good luck figuring it out." Included in the message was hexadecimal lettering, which, when converted with the aptly named Extended Binary Coded Decimal Interchange Code, revealed the message "suspended until EEE," or "suspended until E3" for everyone else. I cannot stress enough how much old code and random programming language got peppered throughout this campaign. It made it fun, but my god is it hard to research. Our story ends with a cryptic email, which was sent to members of the press, claiming that a Portal 2 world premiere scheduled for June 14th at E3 was cancelled for a surprise. It read, "Dear subject name here, Aperture Science is pleased to inform you that we have partnered with Valve to announce the gala cancellation of the June 14th Portal 2 event at the Regal Theatre. The event will be replaced by a surprise, and even though the cancellation of the event certainly counts as a surprise, we are pleased to further announce that the cancellation of the event is not the surprise. However, per international treaties regarding the definition of the word surprise, of which both Aperture Science and Valve are signatories, the time, date and content of the surprise will only become available as you experience the surprise. If you'd like to ask fruitless questions about the E3 Portal 2 surprise, or more fruitfully, schedule an appointment to attend a Portal 2 screening at the Valve booth during E3, please contact Valve's Special Envoy to Surprises, Doug Lombardi. Thank you. Record scratch. P.S. The surprising record scratch is also not the surprise." Our story ends here. The ARG was complete. Its legacy is enduring. It set the standard for the depth and creativity of future augmented reality games. The decision to start it with a small update to Portal was the first stroke of genius. They took a gamble on a reasonably nascent internet communities, assuming not only that they would spot the changes, but go to the frankly psychotic levels that they did to unlock each concurrent stage of the ARG. This game was perfectly aligned to the thematics of Portal. It was a beautiful few days in which people came together to sleuth across the internet, and that was truly the biggest prize of all. Well, actually that's not true. Game of the Year Portal 2 was better, but this was a close second. A new ARG would start that would push the boundaries again. If you want me to do a video on that one, let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching this video. Hit subscribe if you enjoyed. We're trying to hit 100 subscribers here. Thanks.